Hey, welcome to the show, Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour. I'm Arif Halaby along with Jeff Girard, talking about your family's finances, of course, getting out of debt, managing your life, financially speaking. When do your friends come out of the woodwork? Usually.
Yeah, right after the lottery.
Yeah, right after the lottery.
Right after you win something big.
How many of you have heard of the lotto doing what it's doing lately, and you're looking around going, if I had that, I would buy, and I would do, and I would have. And, well, first of all, what you would have is a phone ringing off the hook. I don't know what it is, but with friends and family, when you tend to make money or be a lotto winner, or you're somebody who gets a bonus or whatever it might be, if somebody perceives that you have money, they have a plan. They have a plan for your money. They have a plan to come and take it from you. They have a plan to go through it and say, hey, how do I outline a way for me to create a plan in my life with your money? Well, look, a lot of my family friends, they subscribe to this world that says, always say you're just doing okay. How you doing? Yeah, doing pretty good. Okay, not bad. A little tough. I go, well, gosh, but what if things are going great? Well, you still say, well, it's going okay. It's not bad. It's all right. Could be better. Could be better. How many of you know people like that? Probably they're the ones that have been hit up time and time again, where every time they go, hey, things are just going awesome, man. You wouldn't believe it. Really? Yeah, good for you. Awesome. Yeah, great. Hey, can I borrow $5, 10,000, 4,000, whatever? And it's not because I don't believe that in most cases these people are bad people. I think they just often don't see the depth of price that you pay for the money that you have earned. They think that you just walked down the street and it fell out of the sky. And certainly in the lotto stories, that's one of the things that's happening with it, is that I think it enriches people for not doing anything or being anything, but just existing, right? Buying a ticket will be. But what about when you inherit money? A lot of you go, well, inheriting money, I just received, maybe you didn't do anything for that much more than you would have for the lotto, in fact. Right? You had nothing to do with where you were born. A lotto ticket, at least you bought one.
Sure, and that's right. And it's something ironic, I think. It's part of what you're saying is when people tend to think someone's doing well and ask them for money, it's right after someone's either bought a new house or a new car, when in fact, if they did that, they're doing well enough to buy that, but now that's a new expense, or they've just increased their expenses by in most cases, and now that you think that's the time to go and ask somebody when they took on a new cost. I think that's kind of interesting. But you're talking about some of the things that are associated, the value, the worth, there are a lot of feelings, a lot of emotions that come with inheriting a big amount of money that a lot of people don't realize. And so what I see a lot of people do is they won't do anything. They have this weird guilt or this weird feeling about them. They just won't do anything. They won't tell anybody about it. They just kind of keep it to themselves. And it's usually you confide in one person, they'll tell someone, and then that's when the flood of phone calls come in. That's how I've kind of experienced it happening.
Yeah, and I believe what takes place in this process is often personal relationships are strained, because if you didn't lend them money, now they resent you and they're upset with you. If you did lend them money and they didn't pay you back, which is most of the time the case because they deserve to keep it and you're not going to miss it, and it's like stealing from Walmart, it's only $5. Look at the size of that company.
Yeah.
Right? You take your moral behavior and you transfer it to the other person or the other, and then now you can justify anything if you do that. Instead of looking back and saying, that may or may not be the case, whatever that story is, but how about checking in with myself, morally speaking, ethically speaking, is this the right thing to do? Did I ask to borrow this money and should I pay it back? Yes, if I said I would, then it is. It's not a gift. Because they don't hound you every day or they don't call you once a month doesn't mean you don't owe them. You said you would pay them once a month or whatever the situation is. So then that strains now that relationship, right? So now whenever you lend money, it changes any kind of relationship, period. That doesn't matter what it is. Whenever a government taxes an entity, it changes the relationship, right? The moment I can take something from you or I get something from you without doing something. Now, if I work for you and I'm supposed to build this desk and I build it, and then at the end you pay me, then that's an equal relationship. I asked for, I did, I built, you paid, it's done, we agreed, it's over. But when money is taxed and sent up to Washington or Sacramento, or when dollars are lent to a cousin or a family or a nephew or a child, those dollars just kind of become this underlying current of resentment. You all know it. I've been there. You've been there. It's a very yucky place to be. And I think what it does is it puts you in a place where if you follow some rules, and we have some what we call golden rules of loaning money, then I think it can help. So let's start with number one. If you're going to lend money to an adult child, there's some things you're going to have to know.
Well, I think this hits it right on the head. And I think rule number one in loaning, especially when it comes to family or close friends or somebody that you would entrust with such a transaction as in a loan, you better be prepared to just not get that money back. I think only loan the amount that you won't miss is kind of what we're getting at. And here's why. It goes back to what Arif's saying. Some people are so close that they feel like they can put you in a position to ask you for money. Now, that doesn't make them bad. They might be in a pinch. They might need some short-term money, and they're going to get it right back to you. But, the road to where is paved with good intentions. And sometimes people say, oh, something happened and you don't understand. And all of a sudden, those sets of justifications come through, and then they've decided that they cannot pay you back.
Now, especially if you have a child, look, I've seen it with buying a new house, with buying a new car. My son, my daughter, they just had a new baby. They're moving in with us. All those stories, they all put that into an emotional box. But here's where, in my opinion, it kind of rocks through. If you are prepared to foreclose on them, and if they have not paid you, and you listen, if you're going to do this, we'll get to that in a minute, but you better write stuff down. You better take a lien on the house if you've lent them money, a second position if you're the second lender, or the second one, or the first, or whatever. And in addition to all of that, you had better, at the end of this day, be prepared to foreclose on them on Christmas Eve. Now you might say, oh, that's so harsh. Then don't lend them money and expect to get it back. Because they would not hesitate to not pay you on Christmas Eve. They would not hesitate to not pay you the money that's owed you on the 1st or the 15th or the 10th. So you have to be prepared. If you're going to lend money and you think you're going to lend it and expect it back, then be prepared to either repossess the car, if that's what they're doing, to kick them out of the house, if that's the story, or to frankly take the home. You can go through the normal process, you kick them out. That is so harsh, Sheriff. Then you're not lending them money, you're giving them money. So if you're okay with giving them money, then that's different. Of course you wouldn't take something that isn't yours, right? Because you gave it to them. Now, when it leaves your hand and goes to them, it's now theirs. That's a different story. So be very cautious. If you're going to call this a loan and you're expecting them to pay, then you better get an auto debit out of their checking account into your checking account on the 8th of every month because they're paid on the 7th or whatever the story is. That really helps with you building a process of accountability to them and keeping the relationship. Because I don't care who you are. Mother, daughter, father, son, friend, cousin, brother, sister. When you lend money and the payment is not being made like it should, it ruins relationships. If you got a story about that, you can give us a call at 298-KHTS. That's 298-5487. I'd like to hear a couple of them. That might be interesting, right? Of course, changing names to protect the innocent, but I want the relationships. Tell me about the relationships. It's this, it's my best friend, it's my cousin. I want to know about it, and I'll tell you why. Because I think you can help others from going down that same road. I think you can prevent that from happening and, in fact, create, if you will, an opportunity to not have somebody else's relationship be damaged. Really? I think that's important. All right. Look, you can also go follow us on the web. I want to give you some information. You can go to download our free KHTS app. That's on your iPhone, Android. It's on your devices. And now you can listen to KHTS wherever, whenever you want. You can also access KHTS news, information, social media, and of course us, the shows right here on your hometown station. All right, getting back to a couple of other mistakes that we see people make, or some rules if you're planning on lending money to your kids.
Well, I think another helpful part of this is, and I've started to see more of this, is knowing how or what for you're lending that money, with hanging quotes around lending, giving money to a child or anybody for that matter, you might be able to, and let me say it this way. Someone says, oh, I need $100. I need to pay this bill, or I need $1,000. Gosh, we're behind on some bills and we need to do some things. You loan them the money. They think, okay, you just made their world, right? You just got them out of their financial distress. And then a month later, 2 months later, they're still in trouble. Why is that? Because you gave them cash and they ran off with it. They spent it on something else.
Well, the behavior didn't change either.
Correct. They didn't put 100% of that toward what was causing them to ask for money in the first place. So what I think is very helpful, and I see more and more of this, is you say, okay, what's the money going to be used for? Well, I need to pay, these 3 cards off, credit cards, or I need to put a down payment on a car. Okay, great. Go with them. Show me a statement. I mean, here's a consideration. Pay whoever it is directly that they owe money if you're helping them get out of a hole. If you need to write them a check, write it to the dealership if they need a down payment on a car. I mean, what I'm saying is put it right to the source so that your money went to good use versus it just kind of went by the wayside.
You've come out here to Main Street, downtown Newhall in this area, and there's homeless people now and again, sometimes a lot. There's reasons why myself and others don't just give them money. We don't. You shouldn't. It is absolutely the biggest mistake. They use it on alcohol. They'll use it on drugs. If they really wanted to get... Now, look, I know I'm treading in some water, but I spent 11 years as a Los Angeles policeman. I can tell you stories. If you're homeless, there are resources for you. I don't care where you go. Is it easy? Is it perfect? Of course not. Look, this is America. This isn't Russia, where everything's in a box. Take it or leave it. We all have 10 pairs of socks. They're all the same kind. Tough luck. It's not that way. You have a choice. And where I'm going with this is, if you're going to give money to a homeless person, have them do something for it. A gentleman out here cleans the sidewalk from 8th to 9th Street, 8th to Market. And that's what he does. And when he does that, I give him a few dollars. Now you go, gosh, Sheriff, what? No. Why would I purposely demean someone's self-respect? Do you know you do that? They say, oh, but I need it, I want it. Look, if he can't be drunk when he talks to me. He can't have beer or alcohol anywhere around him when I talk to him. And if that's the case, and he wants to work and be honorable for his money, I'm a part of that. If somebody is hungry, I'll buy you a sandwich. But I will not give you money for a sandwich because you're going to spend it on drugs and alcohol. Spend 10 minutes in any place where there are homeless people and you see it. It's not a secret, really. Oh my gosh, Sheriff, how do you say that? It's called what it is. So follow the truth here for just a minute, because your life is going to be built around 2 separate things. Truth and clarity. Know what the truth is, be clear about your decisions, and then be prepared to defend them if anybody asks.
I was walking down the street the other day in that same area you're talking about, and I'll call him a gentleman. He was sitting on the sidewalk and asked me for money, but he did say, sir, I want you to know, look, I'm just being honest, okay? I need a couple dollars because I really would like to have a beer. And as if that was going to be the thing. So I thought, well, thanks for being honest, but really, what did you do to earn that? So it's kind of a crazy thing.
I go, look, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to rob you. What? Wait. Oh, you're an honest robber? You're an honest alcoholic? You're an honest drug addict? Come on. You have to take a stand. I know and I understand that you feel better when you give money to somebody. I get it. That's fine. Understand, when I was a Los Angeles policeman, we would stop people that were in the traffic, right? It would happen a lot, especially in West LA, right off of the Sunset off-ramp. If you're heading southbound with that big circular hotel where one direction is Bel Air, the other direction is Brentwood. Beautiful. And we were by that intersection just a short bit of time, and then we get a call that an elderly adult is possibly lost and wandering in traffic. Oh, goodness. We were just there. So we come up Sunset, and while we're stopped at the light, we look over to try to see if we could find him anywhere. And sure enough, he's standing there at the off-ramp direction, but on Sunset in that side street where you go left or right onto Sunset. And he's going up and down the row of the cars that are making a left turn. And he's got his overcoat on, and he's got a great little hat. And he dips his hat, and thank you so much, and people. So well, we figure this is probably a guy asking for money, but he doesn't look like a traditionally, dirty-ish kind of a guy just on the street. He looks like something's wrong. We're not sure. So we pull over, say, sir, are you okay? Can we talk to you for a minute? Part of the protocol is to always make sure that they don't have anything in their pockets that can hurt you or them. Guns, weapons, knives, whatever it might be. So sure enough, we say, what's that? Those are bulges in your suit coat pocket. What is that? And he's pulling out 20s and 50s.
Wow.
Now, follow me for a minute. If you're stopped at the light and you're driving your beautiful car and you have a guilty feeling, not if you're a college student going to UCLA, no. You're driving your beautiful automobile and you have a guilty sense in your heart that this person looks like your brother or your father or somebody, are you going to ask for change when you give them a $20 bill? Or a 50? We saw numerous 50s. Of course not.
No.
That means somebody peeled off a $50 bill. I'm going back to 1991. That means somebody peeled off a $50 bill. Drove away feeling great. By talking to this guy, it took us a couple minutes, but we got the whole story. He has 2 pensions. One of them is Social Security. Lives in a beautiful apartment in North Hollywood. And his job is to go out, and he had $500 in his pocket. $500. We asked him how long he'd been out there. He said about 2 hours. Do you make $250 an hour?
Wow.
Most of you are probably going to say no. So, am I saying that there aren't legitimate people that need help? Of course there are. Am I saying that you shouldn't give your kids money? Of course not. But understand, are you giving it for you to feel better, or are you giving it to make a difference? Oh, I'm giving it to make a difference. Wonderful. If you're giving it to make a difference, then as Jeff was suggesting, go to the restaurant itself and buy the sandwich. Go and have them work for it so that they can feel like they're making a difference and they have some self-worth. Forget this baloney of self-esteem. Do you understand that that's now been debunked? Prisons are filled with people with self-esteem. I want you to know that. They have no self-worth. Oh, Arif, same thing. Wrong. Try to go and find people that have self-worth, that think that it's okay, that they value themselves so much that they're going to take your stuff. That's not self-worth. That's zero. Self-esteem, I'm so worthy. I feel so good about myself that I deserve your stuff, including your life. That's called self-esteem. Self-worth. Build your children, build the community with self-worth. And if that is your objective, then when it comes to lending your kids money, make sure you don't do them harm. Make sure you first do no harm, like the Hippocratic Oath. I don't even know if physicians take that anymore, right? First do no harm. And if that's the case, how do we sit down and lay out the foundation? What are they going to use it for? Well, I'm going to use it for, how did you get here? Where yesterday or last month or last year you were financially okay and today you're not. Well, this happened and this happened and this happened. Wonderful. What are you going to do to keep this from happening again? Because if you go back, and next week will be 12 years on the KHTS radio, 12 years, about 1,800 shows, a lot, maybe 2,000 shows, we haven't counted. You take a look at these 1,800 shows and you go back to the first 50, and let me tell you what they said. They said things like self-responsibility, and believe it or not, that if I knocked on your door, because we did a lot of shows on debt, credit card debt back then, if you had $10,000 in credit card debt, and you got a knock on the door, and the knock, hey, I understand you have $10,000 in 4 different credit cards. Yes, sir. Here is $10,000 in cash. I would never tell you go pay off all your credit card debt. Yeah, but Arif, it's 32% interest. I still wouldn't tell you to pay it off. Well, I thought you were a financial guy. I still wouldn't tell you to pay it off. Why?
Well, because you end it all in one fell swoop with that gifted money that has zero value attachment to you. You did not earn that. It's better for you to build the habit, go out and pay those off, because that's you digging out of the hole that you got into on your own.
And because you didn't change the habits that got you there, you will be right back there. How many of you have refinanced a house, paid off your car, your debt, and you're right back in the same boat, except now you owe money on your house and you have a second mortgage payment? How many of you have refinanced credit cards by taking these 2 and paying off that one, and then by doing this, and you get this great little plan, and you're still in the same stinking boat? How many of you Well, then do you understand the answer is not to pay off your debt? It's to change your habits. It's to become a different person. It's to become somebody who understands this is why I ended up there, and this is how I'm not going to get back there. I'm okay. Look, if I take that $10,000, what I would do is I would say take $6,000 and pay off debt. The payments you were making on the 10, pay that on the remaining $4,000. Put that other $4,000 in cash that you had and set that into maybe a checking or a savings account. And if emergencies come along the way, because now you're accelerating, right? Now you're paying more of that debt off because what you were paying on $10,000, you're now paying on $4,000. And if there's an emergency that comes up, instead of going right back into debt, what did you do? You went and took it from your savings. And you started to build a habit of not going to the credit card and not carrying the debt each and every month. That's a big difference. We come back, we're going to talk about rules to lend money to your kids or relative, any relative. If you have adult relatives that want to borrow money, got an outline for you. And here, do me a favor. Go to hometownstation.com, click on Total Financial Solutions. You can also send us an email if you want, or better yet, go to 298-5487, 298-KHTS. Give us a call. Tell us your story. If you've lent money to a relative and it didn't go well, because look, my story, my contention is the story never goes well. There's always somebody who's resentful at the end of the story. If you have a good story, if it all went out well, I'd like to hear it as well, and maybe there's some encouragement when we come back. Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour. I'm Arif Halaby, along with Jeff Girard. We'll be right back.